Have you ever heard of an African kingdom so powerful that its merchants reached across the Red Sea, its coins traveled beyond its borders, and its rulers stood among the great powers of the ancient world? More than 15 centuries ago, in the highlands of the Horn of Africa, a kingdom called Aksum rose to prominence. Its cities were built of stone. Its merchants moved between continents. And its influence reached far beyond the mountains that surrounded it. But this was only the beginning. Imagine stepping into Aksum at the height of its power. The morning air is cool. Dust hangs above the road. Around you, people are already moving: farmers, craftsmen, merchants, soldiers, children. Animals squeeze through the crowded streets as voices rise from the marketplace. This is not a forgotten ruin. This is a living city. Stalls fill the streets with food, woven goods, pottery, textiles, and products brought from distant lands. Some people have traveled for days to reach this market. Others have spent their entire lives here. And somewhere among them are merchants carrying goods that will eventually leave Africa, cross the Red Sea, and enter a much larger world. For the merchant, Aksum is more than a home. It is an opportunity. Here, goods can be bought, sold, exchanged, and carried onward. Every transaction connects another person to another place. And slowly, almost invisibly, these exchanges are turning Aksum into something much larger than a local kingdom. But empires are not built by kings alone. They are built by hands. A craftsman strikes metal against metal. A farmer works the soil. A builder shapes stone. A merchant counts his goods. Thousands of ordinary people perform ordinary tasks, and together, they create the machinery of an extraordinary civilization. Beyond the markets and royal compounds, most people live much simpler lives. Families prepare food. Children grow up among animals, fields, workshops, and stone houses. There are no grand monuments in every home. No royal procession passes every doorway. But these people are the foundation upon which Aksum's wealth depends. And from above, the scale becomes clearer. Aksum is surrounded by farmland and roads. Monuments rise above the settlement. People move through its streets. Caravans approach from distant regions. The kingdom may be rooted in the African highlands. But its ambitions are reaching much farther. From the city, caravans begin their journeys. Pack animals carry valuable goods along rugged roads toward the Red Sea. The journey is difficult. Heat, distance, mountains, and uncertainty all stand between the merchants and the coast. But beyond those mountains lies something that will transform Aksum's fortunes. The sea. The Red Sea is not a barrier. It is a highway. Across these waters, ships connect the African coast with Arabia and the wider trading world. And Aksum sits close enough to this network to become one of its most important participants. Geography has given the kingdom an extraordinary advantage. Goods move through Aksum in every direction. Ivory. Aromatic products. Agricultural goods. Textiles. Livestock and objects brought from distant markets. The exact routes and importance of individual commodities changed over time. But the larger pattern is clear: Aksum was part of a commercial world that stretched far beyond Africa. Think about what that means. A merchant leaving the highlands could eventually reach the coast. A ship leaving the coast could cross the Red Sea. And goods passing through these networks could ultimately reach markets far beyond the kingdom itself. Aksum was becoming a crossroads. And crossroads create power. At the Red Sea, the atmosphere changes. The air is hotter. The landscape becomes drier. Wooden ships wait along the coast. Sailors pull ropes. Cargo is loaded. Animals are unloaded. Merchants negotiate. Here, the wealth of the highlands meets the sea. Every journey depends on wind, wood, rope, and human skill. Sailors raise woven sails. Cargo is secured. The vessel creaks beneath their feet. There are no engines. No radios. No modern navigation systems. Only experience, the stars, the winds, and the uncertain sea ahead. Slowly, the ship pulls away from the coast. The African shoreline begins to shrink behind it. For the people aboard, this is not simply a voyage. It is part of a network that connects Africa to Arabia and beyond. And somewhere behind them, Aksum's power is growing with every successful journey. But trade requires more than ships and merchants. It requires trust. And Aksum made its power visible in another way. Through coins. Bearing the authority and identity of the kingdom, Aksumite coins traveled with its merchants and rulers. Metal had become a message, Aksum was here. Imagine placing one of those coins into your hand. It is small. Cold. Heavy for its size. But behind it stands an organized state capable of producing standardized currency and using it as part of a wider economic system. A tiny object. Carrying the identity of an entire kingdom. Inside a workshop, metal is heated. A craftsman prepares a blank. A hammer strikes. Again. And again. The process is simple compared with modern manufacturing. But the message is sophisticated. A kingdom that can issue its own coinage is declaring something to the world: we have authority. We have wealth. And we intend to be recognized. Then there are the monuments. Stone structures so enormous that standing beneath them makes a person feel almost insignificant. They rise from the earth like permanent declarations of power. And unlike gold or food or trade goods, stone can remain long after the people who built it are gone. But every monument begins with labor. Men cut stone. Others move it. Craftsmen shape surfaces. Workers repeat the same exhausting movements hour after hour. Dust covers their bodies. Their names are mostly lost. Yet their work survives. The monument remembers them, even when history does not. And somewhere above this world stands the king. Royal authority is displayed through ceremony, architecture, officials, and guards. For the ordinary citizen, the king is not simply another man. He represents the state itself. The wealth of the kingdom. Its military power. Its traditions. And its connection to the world beyond Aksum. Within the royal center, another world exists. Officially move through courtyards. Guards watch entrances. Goods arrive from distant places. Decisions are made that can affect thousands of lives. Outside these walls, Aksum is a marketplace. Inside them, it is a kingdom. But royal power ultimately depends on something far less glamorous. Food. Beyond the city, farmers work the highland soil. They grow crops. Raise animals. And endure the changing seasons. Their labor feeds the people who build monuments, sail ships, guard roads, and govern the kingdom. Inside ordinary homes, life continues at a much more intimate scale. Food is prepared over fire. Water is carried. Children are cared for. Clothing is woven. Stories are shared. History often remembers kings and monuments. But civilization is experienced by ordinary families one day at a time. Children grow up believing that these streets are simply the world. They know the sounds of animals. The smell of cooking fires. The voices of merchants. The dust beneath their feet. They cannot know that centuries later, people will look at the remains of their city and wonder what life here once felt like. And this is perhaps the most important thing to remember. Aksum was not a collection of monuments. It was people. Thousands upon thousands of them. Farmers, merchants, builders, soldiers. Mothers, children, craftsmen. People who woke each morning without knowing that they were living inside what history would later call an empire. Then, during the 4th century, another transformation begins. Christianity reaches the royal world of Aksum. During the reign of King Ezana, the kingdom's religious identity begins to change. But history is rarely transformed in a single afternoon. Old traditions do not simply disappear. New beliefs enter an existing world. And gradually, that world begins to change. In the quiet of an early Christian gathering, the atmosphere is different. The symbols are new. The beliefs are changing. But the people remain the same people who farm the land, trade in the markets, and live beneath the highland sky. Aksum is not becoming a different civilization overnight. It is becoming a transformed version of itself. This transformation will eventually become one of the most enduring parts of Aksum's legacy. Religion, kingship, architecture, and identity begin to intersect in new ways. And once again, Aksum demonstrates something that great civilizations often reveal: they are never completely static. They change. Or they disappear. Now step back. Look at Aksum as a whole. The city is alive. Markets are crowded. Caravans move along the roads. Ships cross the Red Sea. Monuments dominate the skyline. Farmers work the surrounding land. Royal officials govern from the center. This is Aksum at the height of its influence. Everywhere, there is movement. People bargain. Animals push through the crowd. Merchants count coins. Craftsmen work. Travelers arrive. Others prepare to leave. The sounds of the marketplace merge into one enormous rhythm. For a moment, it is easy to imagine that this world could continue forever. But history has other plans. The wealth of Aksum is not simply gold locked inside a palace. It is movement. Goods moving. People moving, ships moving, ideas moving. Coins moving from one hand to another. Aksum's strength comes from its position inside a network. And networks can be powerful. But they can also be fragile. Beyond the Red Sea, other powers are changing. Trade patterns shift. Political relationships change. Ports rise and fall. New routes appear. Old routes become less important. A kingdom built around connections to the wider world can prosper enormously. But it can also suffer when that wider world changes. Slowly, the atmosphere begins to change. The harbor is quieter. There are fewer ships. The movement of goods is no longer what it once was. Nothing necessarily happens in a single dramatic moment. There is no single day when Aksum simply disappears. Instead, the world around it is changing. A market stall that was once crowded is quieter. A merchant waits. A few customers pass. The streets feel wider. The rhythm has changed. For the people living through it, this may not even feel like the end of an empire. It may simply feel like difficult times. Caravans still travel. Trade does not simply vanish. But the old scale of prosperity begins to weaken. Aksum's transformation likely involved many forces: economic, political, environmental, and regional. There was no single switch that turned the kingdom off. The change was gradual. And eventually, silence begins to replace movement. Wind passes through stone. Dust settles across roads. The sounds of merchants disappear. The great city that once connected distant worlds begins to change. Not all at once. Not completely. But enough to alter its place in history. Grass grows around old foundations. Stone begins to weather. Paths once filled with footsteps become quiet. Nature does what it has always done. It waits. And slowly, it begins to reclaim what human beings once believed they had made permanent. Yet the monuments remain. Standing against the wind. Standing beneath the same mountains. Standing beneath the same sun. The people who built them are gone. The merchants have gone. The caravans have gone. But the stone is still here. Walk through the marketplace now. There is no bargaining. No livestock. No children running through the dust. Only fragments remain. A piece of pottery. A weathered wall. A stone foundation. And the strange silence left behind when a civilization moves on. The royal world is quiet too. Where officials once walked, weeds grow. Where decisions were made, the wind moves through empty spaces. Power has disappeared from the buildings. But the architecture still whispers what once existed here. Look at the monument again. Centuries have passed. Rain has fallen. Winds have blown. Generations have come and gone. Yet this stone still stands. And suddenly, the history of Aksum feels less like a list of dates. And more like a conversation between the living and the dead. The road that once carried merchants toward the city is silent. No caravan approaches. No guards wait at the edge of the settlement. No merchant calls from a stall. But the road remains. A reminder that places can outlive the systems that made them important. And at the Red Sea, the water continues to move. The same wind crosses the waves. The same coastline watches the horizon. Once, ships carried Aksumite goods toward distant markets. Now the sea gives no indication that any of it ever happened. History can be strangely quiet. But stone remembers. Not with words. Not with voices. But through what survives. The monuments. The inscriptions. The coins. The archaeological remains. Each fragment gives us another glimpse into a civilization that once believed the future belonged to it. And perhaps Aksum never truly disappeared. Its political world changed. Its economic importance changed. Its cities changed. But cultural traditions survived. Religious traditions endured. Memories passed from one generation to another. The kingdom was no longer the power it had once been. But its legacy continued. Return now to the highlands. Look at the landscape from above. The mountains are still here. The valleys are still here. The stone monuments are still here. And somewhere beneath this landscape is the story of a kingdom that once connected Africa to a much larger world. At sunset, the stone turns gold. For a brief moment, the ruins almost seem alive again. You can imagine the crowds. The merchants. The caravans. The ships. The royal procession. The children running through the streets. Then the light begins to disappear. So how could a kingdom this powerful become so unfamiliar to the modern world? Perhaps because history is not a straight line. Great powers rise. Networks shift. Cities transform. And civilizations that once stood at the center of the world can eventually become memories beneath the earth. But Aksum was never simply lost. It left something behind. In stone, in culture, in faith. In archaeology. And in the landscape itself. Aksum reminds us that forgotten does not mean unimportant. Because long after the kingdom fell silent, the stones were still waiting for someone to listen. And now, we remember. Fade to black.